Yeah, so hi everyone. Good evening, ma'am. Today we have with us Ms. Archana Phadke, editor, cinematographer, director, writer, you name it all, and she has done it. She has a national award to her credit and has also been an alumna of the Berlin Talent Campus. And she has worked on films such as Sagar Setu, Uski Barish, and Placebo. And her debut feature-length documentary About Love premiered in 2019 at the Sheffield Dog Fest. And since then, it has gone on to win many awards. So, ma'am, it's a pleasure to have you here with us this evening.
Thank you so much. I'm also excited to talk to you guys.
Okay, ma'am, could you tell us a little bit about your journey? When did you realize that filmmaking is what you wanted to do since uh, you started off with a short film? So when did you realize that this is what you wanted to do in life?
I think a lot of us, we study something else and then we get into films. That's something like that happened with me. I actually was studying biotechnology, and after I graduated, I definitely knew that's not what I want to do, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So my mom actually said there is this course in Bombay. It's with Xavier's. If you're interested, you can take a break here, then do that course. Is what she told me, and some art thing. No, okay, like that's the she had, and it's called Xavier's Institute of Communication. It has this TV video production course. So she made me join that, and simultaneously, actually, I was preparing for the CAT also, because I thought like this artist program, it won't be that hectic, that kind of thing. And yeah, but then as days went by, I realized that actually it's quite demanding. It takes your energy, and at the same time, my interest in the cat went down and down. And this was the first time in my life that I was exposed to world cinema. I had never seen. I grew up on Bollywood films, and in our class, actually, maybe it was a month into the course where we were just learning the basics. I didn't even know the two shots are joined by a cut. Like, I was so like oblivious to filmmaking, like that. And anyway, I saw this film called Amelie, which probably you guys must have already seen, of course. For me, that was like the most magical film ever made. Like, when I saw it for the first, I'd never seen a French film, and I saw it for the first time, and I was like, oh my god, I have never seen anything like this. Is it possible to create such an shared experience in cinema, really? To create this dream where you're completely transcended from your world into something else. And that's when I kind of knew that I want to do films. I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to achieve that kind of greatness that that film achieved, but the idea is to always kind of at least try, sort of a thing. So that's where my journey kind of started. And a year after, I was in XIC just for the heck of it. I made this short film, which was actually a part of a competition for the Mumbai Film Festival, for Mami, actually, for the Dimensions Mumbai section. So I think I was 21 or something like this. And I made this film called Sagar Setu, which was about the ceiling that was newly built in Bombay, which won the award at Mami. So I was like, oh, maybe I know how to do things. The awards don't mean anything, is something I got to know later, but that time it gave me some kind of ego boost to kind of carry forward. And also, I've had great teachers with people whom I assisted. Also, there's this editor called Deepa Bhatia, who was also my teacher, and Amol Gupte, who wrote, directed Tare Zameen Par, and I worked with him on this film called Stanley Ka Dabba. So he was a great teacher. My professors from college were great, also. So I always had the right kind of people around me, and my partner of in crime, Abhay. So I think these were the people who have had like great influence on the films that I wish to make or will make or have made, sort of a thing. So yeah, that's how it all kind of started.
Okay, and you work majorly on documentaries. Like recently, you have been working on documentaries. Even when I contacted you, you said that you were in Kerala working on a documentary. So I really wanted to know. I was curious about, according to you, what are the nuances that make a documentary portray the story in like the most raw and honest form?
Yeah, so actually, my journey into documentaries also kind of started very interestingly. I used to think documentaries are boring because I had not seen that many documentaries. It was when we were actually making Placebo that I ended up watching a lot of documentaries which were not just talking heads. And that's when I realized, oh, documentary can be something else. And Placebo had immense amount of footage. I think it was like 1,000 hours or something like this. And I was editing that film. So it took me, I think, just both me and Abhay, it took us like 1.5 year to just, he was shooting, of course, so he had experienced something. I took 1.5 year to just watch the footage, you know. And then the editing process took another 1.5 year because you have to keep watching it again. 1,000 hours is like so much, so that was something. Yeah, so I think in that film actually we were much younger and we had different ideas of cinema. And I mean, if you have seen Placebo, it's actually a hybrid documentary. So it mixes elements of fiction with documentary kind of material. But we actually wanted to do something that was very intimate. And rather than exploring there were talking heads in that, but rather than exploring the usual talk that two people have, we were like, okay, let's get let's get into the mindscape of the person, what's the psychology of the person, rather than what they do or where they are, sort of a thing. That just happens automatically, kind of a thing. So that actually really excited me, the possibility of really entering somebody's mind. I mean, of course, through Abhay. But that really excited me. So then I thought, okay, truth is not just what is seen, how to see the truth that is hidden within us, sort of a thing. And that's what really excited me in the documentary format. When I started making my film about love, again, it's a personal documentary. um, uh, my I didn't want much intervention like we did in Placebo, where we kind of mix the fictional elements to create this mood and to create the underlying psychological. I thought, okay, now let's see where the truth hides in what is seen, sort of a thing. So let the audience assume the unseen. That was my idea with that. So I think truth is of different natures, like the seen and the unseen, kind of a thing. And I think with these two films I've kind of understood that much. There is, of course, more to truth than that. And I think in portraying anything, any subject of a documentary, this is interesting. Actually, when we were making Placebo, I was speaking to Raghu Rai once. I'd just gone to talk to him because we were like in the middle of it and we needed some kind of um, I don't know, some kind of guidance, or so to say, some kind of dilasa, just say, I don't know how to, the word for it, sort of a thing. So he said something very interesting, that you guys have a lot of ideas, but I think you now need to shut your ideas and listen to your subject. That's more important. He's like, you stop talking now. Now you stop talking and projecting your ideas there, because I'm sure you have many and you have many films to make later on where you can have that. But it is impossible. It is really important in documentary to not just give your ideas, but it is most important to receive. And if you become a good receiver, you will receive the truth. So it's important to actually enter any subject without any prejudice, without any ideas, without any perceptions, without any ideologies, and be like this clean mirror, sort of a thing, just bouncing or receiving things. And I think that's the only way one can really penetrate truth, in a way.
That's nice. I mean, listening to your subjects can be so crucial when it comes to documentary. That's good to know.
That's very interesting, actually, that you say that we have to be open, we have to be like a clean mirror. I just wanted to ask, like, you have been an editor and you have been dealing with different aspects of filmmaking. But when you decided to become a director for your documentary about love, did the director's chair change your perspective or approach towards editing in any way? Did it affect in any way?
No, no, definitely that does happen. Because see, at the end of the day, the director, first of all, I think everyone who's a part of the filmmaking process has their own role to play. The director, for whatever reasons, gets a lot of importance from the outside, but director is literally the manager sort of a thing, you have to manage things, right? And everyone's doing their job, and which they need to really concentrate on. But what you need to do as a director is also to see if they're going in the right direction. Again, like, if they're doing it in the right, they're taking the right path. There are 100 ways to reach the same conclusion, but you really need to see that, no, no, I don't want to go by this path, let's explore this one. And that's literally what the director needs to do. uh, Definitely it's a lot of responsibility. I was also the producer of my film, so actually that kind of brings in more responsibility than a director also, because then there are, finances. And however small budget you make the film, you think it's small budget, it never is. Filmmaking is expensive. The most small budget films, because of the time, and especially documentaries, because of the time they take, the expenses get added. Like with Placebo we took 4 years to make, with About Love we took 4 years to make. So yeah, that's a lot of time, and time is of the essence, because you're relying on your characters to have a graph. So you have to give your characters that time to change. If there's no change in the character or in yourself in the filmmaking process, there's no point. So as a director, I think what is important is that, maybe you want to say something, you really want to say something, and it has to exist in the universe. You're like, oh my god, what I'm saying, this story needs to exist. That's the burn, that's your chair, really. That you hold the responsibility of the existence of your film, sort of a thing. And yes, that really changes. I mean, not in terms of ego or this, that, anything of that sort, but that really changes, how you see the world. And so, definitely, there was a change from when I was an editor to when I became a director, because then it became my responsibility to make this exist at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes really sense. So you've mentioned about your partner in crime, as your words, Abhay Kumar. So you have collaborated with him on a lot of different projects. Some the Placebo is obviously the one, and some I'm assuming that most of your short films were also in collaboration with him. So can you talk about that collaboration with us? We want to we're really curious. How did you guys collaborate with each other?
So actually, Abhay and I became friends in XIC. I was very shy then, Actually, it was the place was in Bombay, but everybody in my class was not from Bombay. So suddenly, I felt like this outsider in my own city, because everybody else was from outside. And I was just like, oh, so I was feeling shy because everyone spoke differently, and I grew up in Bombay, so I had a different way of communication as compared to whoever. So I used to keep to myself. But then Abhay used to write me these notes every day in class, trying to make me open up, sort of a thing. It was his way of doing it. And then I never used to talk to him. But then some kind of conversation happened in our class where we realized that me and Abhay have the same birthday. So that's when I decided, okay, maybe I was 20 something years old, so I was like, I used to get swayed by these kind of things. And so this I decided to be friends with him. And then we kind of realized, in fact, weirdly, we are very alike. um, we are very different but also very alike, and we are very passionate about our ideas. He actually taught me, when he made a short film in our class. He was the first one to make one, and I was so excited that, wow, this person can just take a random handycam and go make a film. And that's when I bought a computer the same day. I cried to my parents that I need a laptop. Like, it wasn't a sorry, it wasn't a very common thing that time, having a laptop. So I cried and I got a laptop, and I learned editing like in the next 4 days. There was some software called Sony Vegas, and I used to be like, oh, I need to learn this, sort of a thing. So it kind of started from there. And because we had great discussions, great, like, um, uh, arguments, it was always like a creative process. But Abhay was always like this person who wanted to go and make things. I wasn't like that in the beginning. So I kind of latched on to that kind of energy, and we automatically started collaborating. And then this is actually a very rare thing that happens, that two authors come together to collaborate without their egos clashing. That cannot happen. Mine and Abhay's egos have clashed many times, but the thing is, somehow, because we knew that this, what we have, is so special. This work relationship that we have, that most people just don't get, so we decided to protect that, even through our fights and all the ego hassles and the aggression that all creative people have. We've always put that on the top, sort of a thing. And my ideas are more on the ground. Like, I can really pull something to the ground, and take out the bullshit from it, sort of a thing. Whereas Abhay likes to fly. So we meet somewhere in the middle, which is good, because he really adds to my creative process and I add to his. So we kind of balance it out without his being getting too weird and nobody understanding anything. So even his weird ideas, I kind of bring it down to earth. And he also brings this sensuality to my ideas, sort of a thing. So yeah. So yeah, it's great, my collaboration with him. Sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. You sounded very very enthusiastic about it. I love that energy. Thank you.
Hi, ma'am. So, you are telling us about how you pull your ideas to the ground and how your collaboration with Abhay, he just, likes to fly. So, we would like to know, like, when was the idea of About Love conceived? And more importantly, what was your intent behind it? Like, what did you want to express?
Yeah. So, so actually the thing is that I had seen this film when I was traveling for a film festival. I'd seen this Korean film called My Love Don't Cross the River, which was actually about this couple, which is this 99-year-old man and a 90-year-old woman, and they're extremely cute and they wear matching clothes. And this love story in the mountains where they're throwing snow at each other or dried leaves at each other. And it was like a very cute kind of a love story where the love was oozing out of screen, sort of a thing. I quite liked the film. And actually, that was the inspiration for About Love, because I thought I have never seen this kind of love in my family. So then, where is this love? Where does it hide? Sort of a thing. Because I have had couples in my family who've been married forever, but this is not there. And I mean, of course, it's culture also and things like this, but still, like something, I have never seen my grandparents so much so as hold hands, also, or even my parents for that matter. Like, I've never seen the love or affection uh, in front of me. So then I thought, okay, let's do this experiment where I decided to actually do a film only about my grandparents, because they were like these bickering people and only abusing each other the whole day. So I was like, okay, let me, maybe I have not seen, but the moment you put a camera, suddenly you start seeing so many things, no? Because your concentration is just on the frame. So I said, let me try, kind of a thing. So for a month, I kind of shot with them. And I was in Bombay, Abhay was in Delhi, so I used to send him the footage and make small cuts and kind of thing. And he said, yes, yes, you're sitting on gold, sort of a thing. But he's like, but what? Like, what are you going to do? So I said, I don't know. Like, with Placebo, we spend so much time shooting. I'll do the same thing. I'll just see where it goes. And even everybody was asking, but why do you want to make this film? I actually had like Abhay had actually connected me to this director Kanu Bell, and I was meeting him for the first time, and I actually liked his films a lot, and he's a great writer and everything, and I was a bit like tense meeting him, but anyway, I kind of met him, and he asked me this, but you have to answer this question. He's like, it might take time for you to realize. You have to answer to yourself why you are making this film. I understand it's a personal film. I understand it's your grandparents, you have access, blah, blah, all of that. But what is it? What is it? So, and I was thinking, but it's so obvious. I mean, like, I just want to make a film about a couple and, that kind of thing. It's only in the filmmaking process that I realized why I want to make the film. That I wanted to understand love. Like, these hidden forms of love, which at the time I did not know this, but, and also the fact that I never wanted to get married. Like, I have something against marriage, like, because of the thing. Now, these are things that I had not confronted ever. But when my brother turns the camera on me, actually, like, it was the first time I realized what is it that why. And I say this thing, randomly, which I was feeling very weird to put in the film also while editing it, where I say that I don't want to become like my mother. Now that's the reason I'm making the film, sort of a thing. That's became clear to me the moment the camera turned on me. Before that, I was, but it was only in the filmmaking. So it is there somewhere inside. Somehow you don't know how to articulate it, of course, but it comes out, in that way. So I think this question, that why don't I want to become like my mother? What is it that that I think that's what really drove me to make the film without me even knowing it, kind of a thing. And the moment I knew really badly that this film needs to exist, because there are many people like me. Their concern might, their question might be something else which the film might answer, but but their own questions will get answered with this, or some little awareness, 1% might come, sort of a thing, so yeah, that's how it kind of, the seed was there, and I didn't even know it. Halfway through filming, I got to know it was like that, so I was very glad that Kanu actually asked me this question, that told me that you have to whatever know in your making process, that why you're making this film. So for me, when I got to know that time only, I was happy. I think I didn't need the rest of the film at all. So yeah.
That is very unique perspective. And talking about your parents, grandparents in your family, so over the 3.5 year, shooting period, were there any instances where you, as a member of your family, of your household, totally changed the course of the narrative in some way?
Yeah, now these are rules that actually I had made for myself, that I won't do that. Like, in the sense that, like, it's very easy, again, like as a family member, to interfere, to kind of force my opinions on them, or instigate them to say something just because the camera is rolling. These were very hard rules that I had made for myself, that I will not do that. That I will not instigate a conversation. I will not put them in a situation where they are forced to be somebody else, or just to create drama and all of this. I said, ठीक है, मैं film shoot करूंगी आराम से, मुझको drama मिल जाएगा, because drama is everywhere in life. So I was like, these were very stringent rules, that yeah, because I did not want to manipulate. See, I might see my parents in a certain way, you will see them in a completely different way, because I have kept that distance, like the way I have shot it also. I rarely go to a close up unless it's really like needed. Otherwise, I've shot the film from far away. I have tried to be observational, but yet having this, you will never forget that it's a family member shooting the film, sort of a thing. So that intimacy, but at the same time, that um, and of course, the form also took me some time to arrive at, that I need to shoot the film like this. If the first month was just trial and error, I was doing everything wrong, until one day I was like, okay, no, this is how I will shoot my grandparents static, because there's no movement there. I will shoot my parents with movement. I will just follow wherever, because their energy is out there, it's not. Yeah. And so earlier I was shooting my parents also very static, and it wasn't working. Like, I was like, then I decided, okay, let me just free flow with them, sort of a thing. But it was never, it was static but yet handheld, because so I never left that handycam aesthetic of the home video, kind of a thing. So yeah, so these were like pretty much like rules. Like, if something's uncomfortable, I would shoot it uncomfortable for me also, and my thankfully my entire family never bothered that I was shooting it. Like, they didn't seem to care at all, so which was good for me, which doesn't happen every time. But yeah, so I really did not interfere much in the story. I just let them be and let the story flow for the way it would if the camera wasn't there.
That's a really convenient thing, no, when your parents did not mind you shooting them. Should have been very comfortable with you.
Yeah, yeah, I was lucky in that regard. That
Yeah,
they didn't have filters, which my family in general doesn't have. So that's why they were the perfect subjects, because they didn't care what people thought of them. So it was like,
I guess
because I,
that's why we were able to enjoy the
yes,
documentary.
yeah.
Mom, you did set rules while shooting them, but they didn't see it coming. Like, they didn't know what you were doing with the camera while you were roaming around the house. They didn't ask you. They didn't know that you were actually shooting three generations of love stories together, and uh, So was
Nothing.
that a bit daunting for you to, set limits as to when it comes to really personal, close moments that, there are instances where your mom is crying or, unfortunately your grandfather passed away during the course of the film. So did that, did you stop yourself at some point where you were like, okay, I'm not going to put this in the film?
So no, I always had this dual role to play of the filmmaker and the family member sort of a thing. So yeah, you have to. It was very strange for me to actually film my grandfather's death because I didn't know it was going to happen while filming it. I thought he used to get sick sometimes, like old people do. But I didn't know that at that point that's what it was going to. So I thought it was just another day. He's feeling weak, and you never assume the worst, with your own family members. So I actually had no idea that that was coming. And after he passed away, there is one shot of him and my grandmother lying on bed together, sort of a thing. And that was a very difficult shot for me to take. Actually, I didn't even carry my camera that time, and I shot that on my phone because my sister actually told me that I think you should shoot this because this is a strange thing that she's lying next to him on the bed while he's dead. And she's like, don't you think this is what love is? And I said, yes, I think so. This is what love is. And that's when but I literally could not roll for more than like 20 seconds because I myself was feeling very emotional. I couldn't edit that myself. So actually, Abhay edited that entire segment because I never even wanted to watch that footage. But I mean, that is something that I kind of had to do. With my mother, interestingly, the thing that happened while making the film was she was always a close person. My father is very flamboyant, very out there. His emotions, his personality, everything is out there. There's nothing inside. It's pura like whatever he feels, he vomits. That's who he is. Whereas my mother is very guarded. She doesn't talk much. Until I made the film, I had no idea that she writes and all that because I had never bothered. Yeah, I used to do something on the computer. Who asks their parents what are you writing on your phone? What are you doing on the computer? I had never bothered to ask her these things because we used to just pass each other. She used to sit half an hour alone in the afternoon and do these things. So I had no idea. So suddenly, I think my mother realized that I am paying attention to her just because I'm making the film you know so suddenly my mother could have dialogue with me about things that she never had a dialogue with me just because of the presence of the camera. So the camera almost became like this portal through which we got connected, but not as mother and daughter but as friends almost, where she could actually talk to me about anything that she wanted about her hidden world almost. So actually the camera almost gave me a got me into the in gave me a connection with her which I wouldn't have till until I made the film. This is the biggest thing that happened for me while making the film, which is the most precious to me, is that in the making of the film, I until then I had assigned roles to my family members. My father was my father, my brother was my brother, my mother is my mother, and that's their role. That's all I see them as. Suddenly, because of the film, I started seeing them as individuals who have their own hopes and dreams. They are not just this role that I have assigned to them. And for me, that was the biggest achievement. Like whether the film came out or not, this realization that my mom is not just my mom. She has her own thing happening. She's a person with her own vast ideas, so much greater than my own ideas. And to be able to appreciate that is something I thought was amazing for to happen to me, which happens to a lot of people much later in life, and I realized it soon. So yeah, so I think of course there were the uncomfortable moments, but I think I was so excited about the relationship that we were forming that I thought that was great also. And my mother's arc became the only changing arc in the film. In a way, it became the she changes from who you think she is in the beginning to who you think of her in the end. And that when the moment happened when she broke down in front of me in on camera, and the second time when she talked to me about the 10 minutes she has alone in the evening or afternoon, I thought, yes, I have a film. That time I knew. I said, now I have a story. It's not just footage that I'm shooting, like that. So
It's so interesting because I mean, when I watched the film, also I could. There, you were trying to portray your own family, but I think all of us who watched the film at some point could relate to this aspect of like our moms or our dad also, and it's pretty cool how. And you mentioned that it's not just you ended up not just shooting a documentary, you ended up learning a lot about your own family as well. So that's good to know.
yeah, and I think that's the most important thing in any art form, actually. I think true art happens when uh, it reveals something to you about yourself, sort of a thing. So I think with anybody who's making films, and I hope I can do that. When I was 20, I was so excited. I wish to be 20 something again, because I was so fearless that time. Now I'm like, oh, this producer, that producer, what do people think? I never used to have all these things. I was just there to have fun and just know something about myself. And I think that is something that one needs to protect. And I'm like jealous of you people who have like that kind of energy, sort of a thing. I'm like, oh shit, I wish I could get that back. Mine is like a little bit gone because of stress of making films. Um but yeah, I think that is something that is very magical, and you need to remind yourself of that fearlessness and wanting to go and know something that you didn't know yesterday or just an hour before. So that should be the way one should approach any art form, like writing, painting, filmmaking, so music, anything.
Yeah, ma'am, you mentioned about a particular Korean film that was an influence on you. Am I audible clearly?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to, when I was watching the film, I could personally see like similarities to Martin Scorsese's Italian American and Sarah Poli's stories we tell. So can you talk more about what were your influences while you were making the film, or like your influences in filmmaking in general? Do you have any influences?
So definitely, I think Stories We Tell is a excellent example, because that's definitely a reference film that I myself have seen for a personal documentary. I think it's one of the best personal documentaries actually ever made. I actually reference that film many times, because I'm like, every time I watch it, I'm like, oh shit, this is so amazing. I didn't realize this the first time I saw it, sort of a thing. And yeah, so I think you are always influenced by this, that, everything, and you're always looking for more than influence. I think you're looking for inspiration, something that, and especially when you are feeling really shitty about yourself, which happens a lot on long projects. It's like then you have to watch a film and you're like, wow, I can also maybe do this. And again, like I said, a lot of teachers have had a lot of influence in my life. I was actually shooting a film with Raghu Rai also, and he, more than the film itself, I have he has said very things to me that always inspire. He said anybody can do anything in life, just remember that. And I was like, so anytime I'm feeling, oh, I can't do this or something like this, I just feel, oh, no, but anybody can do anything in life. Let's try and do it like right now, sort of a thing. But yeah, so there are few directors whom I really love. One is Michael Haneke. Like Amor is actually one of my Amor, and the piano teacher, even Benny's video for that matter. These are all his films are excellent actually. He's definitely one person I would say is not in influence, not for influence for the film, but I definitely thought his cinema definitely like inspires me. I like the idea of a long take, and I mean that's not what his cinema is, but that's what I wanted to explore. Just don't cut. Let's see how much you can how much you can keep this uninterrupted without my how do you say putting the moment you make a cut. See, you're putting the editing mind into it, you're putting yourself into it, your storytelling abilities, you're changing reality in that moment. So the fewer the cuts in a documentary, I feel that much reality is kind of protected, even the way you sequence the film, everything. But I actually made this another rule for myself while editing, was that um, I will not change the way events happen. I actually, the film is edited exactly how it happened. Like I have not played with time at all. in the film. I have kept the time. I have not used music in the film. Only twice it comes. Once I obviously wanted to do it, like in the kite sequence, and that time you can see now there is intervention of the director. Now I'm making a film. Suddenly you realize, like, this is a film. Suddenly when that music, and I didn't want to hide that. Even for that matter, the last sequence when my mother is talking and I've shot from two angles, sort of a thing, the same thing, which I have not done. I broke those in those two sequences. I said, yes, this is a film. I want to show this character in this way. Then in that last sequence, finally you see how I see my mother. You know, that's when how a daughter sees her mother came for the first time, and that was a conscious choice I made in the editing. So but yes, coming back to influences, I think Sarah Polly was definitely one of them. I have seen a lot of documents. I saw Close Up by Kedustami, and things. I mean, I can't even go there, like, chalo, that is god level stuff and everything, but definitely there's inspiration, I think, at every moment, like, there is inspiration, definitely.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of you now because I know that you like Michael Haneke and Kiarostami. Yeah, I absolutely love Benny's video and the
Yeah.
close up at all. So I just wanted to ask, what was the most challenging part of making About Love? What was the thing that you struggle with most?
Money. Money was
Money.
the challenging part. Because, like I said, however cheap your film is, it's not actually cheap, sort of a thing. I was actually filming the whole time, and I used to do odd jobs to kind of make the film happen because I was jobless and I was filming, the whole time. So I have no money. So that used to give me a lot of stress. The most difficult part of filmmaking is money. And second thing is when you start lying to yourself. I think a good film cannot come out when you're shitting yourself, sort of a thing. Okay. Like, in the sense, you have to be honest about what you're doing. It might be a fun film, a crack film. You're making a film to make money, sort of a thing. You're making a product, let's say. So I think the most difficult thing is to not lie to yourself, actually, in the filmmaking process. Like, be honest with yourself in whatever, because you have to also do a lot of manipulation, this, that, everything, but know who that you're doing it. And you should deal with that later with a therapist or something like this, I don't know, or say sorry to the people you manipulated to get your film out, kind of a thing. But yeah, so I think that's important, that just be true to what you want to say, go with your instinct, always go with your instinct, sort of a thing. Of course, there is another producer and all of that, of course, there things, but then that's I'm doing a job, it's a money project, leave it at that. With your own films, be all heart and just stick to your instincts.
That's very insightful.
Ma'am, we would really like to know, like, like, what would you tell was the most funny to you while filming About Love?
Most funny thing.
Yeah,
Oh, I was having fun all the time. Honestly, I used to have a lot of fun filming my grandparents at. Oh yeah, okay. There was one thing which didn't make into the film. So this character who's there, Lali, my grandfather used to
yeah,
see.
yeah.
So my grandfather used to see ghosts. So I was telling Lali that, listen, the grandfather is seeing a lot of ghosts every day, all the time, and everything. So that Lali very seriously is asking me, so have you filmed them? And I was like, what? Have you filmed them? Have you seen them talking? And he asked me so seriously because he also actually used to see ghosts. So he was like, so that was very funny for me actually. I remember that moment that, oh shit, it couldn't make into the film because it didn't fit into the structure, but it was a very cool thing like this that kind of happened. And there was like this magic when you can't script it, magic happens all the time and you can't even like. Oh, by the way, there are a lot of strange, really loud crickets here, so that I cannot control. You might hear them.
No, that's absolutely
They're very
fine.
loud. Yeah, okay.
No, so it's all like happy accidents.
Yes, happy accidents are the best, sort of a thing. There's that scene when my father's wearing that underwear and I'm saying, "Are your underwear is seen," and everything. So now, obviously, I can't write this scene. I don't think anybody can write this scene, sort of a thing. So this is what I love about documentary. That there is these scenes suddenly that come that you feel, shit, I could have never thought of this. ever, however creative I am. Like, I just could not have, this could not have been, or this guy asking me, have you filmed the ghost? I can't think like this at all. I don't have the creativity to think like this. But yeah, that's what excites me about documentary, that when I get like suddenly get faced with life that I have lived all my life, but then suddenly because of the camera, I'm like listening to every word, knowing what is happening here, there, everything. And you're present, you're completely present in that one frame, but it's like meditation almost. So that's when you get that, when that's when you receive the magic, and you should, yeah, anyway, so
It's all unscripted.
yes.
Ma'am, this is a question we all three of us had actually. What was your family's reaction to watching the film, like the final product, and how did they take it? How did they like react to, like, let's say, how did your dad react to your mom's perspective, or your mom to your dad's, or your grandmom also,
Yeah,
and
actually.
how did it affect your growth personally? Like,
Okay, so first means my grandmother got bored. She only wanted to see my grandfather's parts. Okay, she was like, just show me that, because of course she was watching the film and he was no more. So for her it was like that, and she was feeling very happy when he was abusing. That was her reaction, kind of a thing. And my parents actually very interested. I was very scared actually to show them the full film. I had not shown them anything, and I was like, okay, if they now say that I've finished making the film, I mean, my final cut was ready. I had not done sound grade, all of that. But I was like, okay, let me show them, because why should I put money in all this if they say that no, I don't want to get this film out? And that is something you have to respect, because your characters at the end of the day have lent you their life. You have to have their respect the fact that whether they want it to be out or not, sort of a thing. So that was like the decision. I have put a lot of time in making this film and everything, and I thought my parents, if they say no, because I've shown everything, sort of a thing. So my mother was actually very emotional, I remember, and actually she was very happy with the way she comes out in the film, and more than anything, she was going on looking at my dad when all those things, because even he doesn't know, na, she does all this. And then when that scene happens where she cries, and he when he goes to the office, that happened, and my father was like, "I'm sorry," he said to her, that it was 10 minutes. He just said that much, and then he continued watching, because of course for him, as the patriarch man, like that's what he's capable of. But for me, that itself was amazing, that he just was like, "Acha, this happens to you for 10 minutes, okay, sorry." Start watching the film again. But actually, it's very nicely what has happened. They were fine with the film. They were very happy, because my father was laughing with my grandfather being there, and the dance sequences and whatever, whatever. He was very excited. My mother was obviously happy that finally what she wanted to express is out, sort of a thing. My entire family found the film very funny, because yeah. And of course there were the emotional parts and all of this, so it was like they relived those 3 years all over again, which they had forgotten that this had even happened, sort of a thing, and it just suddenly came out to them. And yeah, so I was like, okay, so but do you think we can put it out there into the world, this film? And they were like, yeah, yeah, sure, it looks like a fun film, kind of a thing. That was their reaction, which would put me also to ease, that I'm not making them uncomfortable in any way, doing what I'm doing, sort of a thing. So yeah, so that was pretty nice, I think, to be able to. I think I've not watched the film in like 3 years. Also, I have not watched the film after the premiere, because I edited the film. I've seen it so many times that it's very difficult for me to go back and watch it again. I've not seen Placebo in like 8 years or something. I think 7, 8 years. So that happens. You have to leave your babies behind to make new ones. That's what I've
Yeah,
learned. Once you make a film, forget about it. You're back to zero. Make a new film with the whatever you have learned from previous experience.
yeah, okay. That's
we
a
look
very
forward to the new films that you make.
new films there. Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay, ma'am. I will take questions from the audiences now. So,
Yeah.
first question is by Tarush. So he asks, for a project like Placebo, how did you manage to keep your vision focused over the 3 years of the filmmaking, making of the
Oh,
film?
okay. Yeah. So, the vision was actually not focused. It was changing quite a bit over the lab because like I said, there were so many hours of footage. We could have made 100 different films from that. Of course, it was about the pressure in the education systems in India, and it was a coming of age film of sorts, and and suddenly I, as a woman, was in this boys' club, like in a sense, like I was in the dorm rooms of these boys in their coming of age kind of thing. So I saw the film in a very different way. Abhay was very clear. He was in fact very clear. I used to never understand, like I said, he flies. I never used to understand what he's saying a lot of times. So those are the parts I used to be like, okay, you edit them and then I will understand. He was like, I want portals to appear in the film. And I said, for what? Like, what does that mean? Kind of thing. So it has these VFX shots, of these glowing doorways in the film, which you kind of tie up together. So then I was always trying to find logic to it. Now that was my role in it. Like, for his abstract idea, you're like, what is the logic? And I used to only understand the logic by asking him 500 questions, kind of a thing. And then that logic, we used to kind of, both of us used to kind of tie together in some way to make sense for an audience, kind of a thing. But no, we really did not have focus. We ate a lot of cake. We couldn't edit for a long time. We actually tried editing for almost 6 months. We couldn't edit anything, and then 1 month we edited the whole film. So it just, yeah, we used to divide. We used to be like, whatever happens, you have to. We had two edit systems. I used to edit 10 minutes. He used to edit 10 minutes. By the end of the day, we used to see what the other has done, give notes, exchange, then exchange edit systems, tinker around our edits, sort of a thing. Yeah, so we really didn't know what we were doing, honestly, that time. It just sometimes just, but we had belief that there is something here. That's all. The focus was that we knew we are saying something important through these characters, through them, through their expression. So I think that was important not to break down, but we did several times. And like I said, a lot of cake. I put on, both Abhay and I put on like around 11 kilos while making the film. uh, so these kind of things happened. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Going with the flow is the main thing that you should follow.
Yeah.
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 So another question I have, Srivastava J has, and he asked, like, which role in filmmaking process do you enjoy the most?
Yes, filming, I think so. Filming documentary. I'm not a cinematographer, trained cinematographer, but with documentary, you have to, it's not, you don't have to set up so much light and this, that. You do basic stuff and work with what you have. And I actually enjoy the filming process in documentary the most. Maybe for fiction, I think I would enjoy directing.
Okay, so we can look forward to you directing some fictional films also.
Yeah, I'm actually planning one right now.
Oh, that's amazing. Can you tell us about that?
Anake is the inspiration for that
Inspiration.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually I'm writing the script right now. It'll take me. I take time to write do anything
Yeah.
in life. I take a year to write the script. I'm sure, and it's already written. I'll take another year to make it better. I actually received the Hubert Bals Fund, which is associated with the International Film Festival of Rotterdam, for
Wow.
writing the script right now. Like, it's a development grant that I've got. So with that, it kind of gives me time where I don't have to do other jobs and I can concentrate on writing. Hopefully, I do it. Let's see. But that's the plan, to make the fiction probably in the next 2 years.
We look forward to that film. Another question Aditya Singh is asking, it's about Placebo. He asked that the ending of Placebo with that song and music is a vibe. The documentary was really hard hitting and beautiful. What challenges did your crew face while showing the dark and ignored reality of our educational institutions?
It was actually very traumatizing, because what happens is, while you're filming, I'm especially for Abhay, because his brother is in the film and everything. So I think for him it was even more emotionally taking than it could have been for me. But I can only talk from my perspective. Is that, like, it was, I actually used to couldn't function sometimes for 2 to 3 days when I used to watch this K's footage, Kuldeep's, there's a character called K in the film, and he was very intelligent, very passionate, very articulate, and but his whenever he used to talk, I used to watch sometimes 3 4 hours of material, like, every day, and I used to get really really depressed, where I used to could not function literally for 2 to 3 days, because um, at that age his ideas were beyond me, and for me to process them actually took a lot emotionally out of me, honestly. And that happens, you start empathizing with the characters whom you have to almost, like, you have to love them even if you hate them, kind of a thing, and you do. So you start feeling what they are feeling, the anxieties, the pressures, everything. So I can't even imagine, like, as an outsider I felt this. Being on the inside when you're 17, 18 years old, it's unfathomable, the kind of pressure that's there. So it does take an emotional toll on you as a filmmaker also. When you do any subject that emotionally demands you, I think it drains you, and you have to find other ways to kind of deal with it, sort of a thing.
We are in that sort of part of life now, so we
Yes,
are
of
trying
course.
to actively deal with it. Yeah. Okay, I'll ask another question from the audience. It's just from Nathan. He asked, according to you, what is that one necessary trait that every filmmaker should possess in order to create magic on screen? So, and to all the filmmakers, aspiring filmmakers, student filmmakers out there who wish to create their own films one day, what would your advice be?
I think straight stay true to your intent. Like, see, there are different types of filmmakers, like there will be people who, like, I consider myself art house. Okay. Like I go in those kind of subjects, and that is the kind of stuff that gives me happiness. That doesn't mean that I can't watch a Bollywood film or a Hollywood film. I actually enjoy watching those things. But in making, I cannot do that. मुझसे होगा ही नहीं. I won't be able to put my heart in it. So you have to know where your heart is. If you enjoy doing the Bollywood thing, please go ahead and full heartedly do it. So your intent has to be very clear while making a film. Whatever it is, actually, whatever you do in life, know why you're doing it, and then do it wholeheartedly for that reason. That is the only advice. Because, like, with art house, I know I will not get money. I will not have like some crazy amazing life or something like that, but it doesn't bother me. My requirements are small. If I have like decent food and a house to stay, I'm okay with it. I don't want a car, house, all that shit. If I get any extra money, I'll put it in the film. It's like that. So if you want the car and the house, then yeah, then make those kind of films, sort of a thing. And there's nothing wrong with it. Just be clear about your intent.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I was not audible. Yeah, so one more question from the audience. Gargi is asking, in your opinion, where do you see the future of filmmaking heading? How does a filmmaker stay updated with the rapid changes in industry? Where do you see the whole cinema in India and all around the world is headed towards?
Actually, I'm quite excited with the way things are happening in India, or even I don't know how it's happening in the world, but at least in India, like, I'm quite excited with the way things are happening. Like, actually, everyone's attention span has become so low because of this TikTok, Insta, and all these
Yeah.
things. Short form stories, and some of them are very creatively done. So I just think that if you want to express in a certain way, do it. And now I think is the time to do it even more, because technology allows you to kind of express anywhere and everywhere, sort of a thing. That's a great thing that has happened. I think another thing that's happening very strongly in India is that the star culture is kind of dying. They're being very normalized, which I love. Like, great actors are emerging through OTTs, sort of a thing, and like, I think that is amazing, because now we are actually looking at the story and not just going to watch a film for watching some actor, which has its own plus points. But again, like, I like that change is happening, because there are some series, some show, even films for that matter. I think in the 90s and 2000s we had the worst films. I think in the last like 5 years after the OTTs have come in, still there might be a lot of content that's coming out, but also good content is coming out, and which you can really look forward to, like, so definitely that's a great change. I think the biggest problem also that is happening is with censorship, in the sense, like, now this is something that I feel strongly, that if you say one little thing about politics or religion or whatever, suddenly you become like an anti-national or something like this. So that is something that is bit something that I don't like in today's time, but that has nothing to do with the filmmakers. It's just the kind of environment we are in, and if we vote right next time, that could perhaps change, sort of a thing.
Censorship has been a very, very
I'm
big.
censoring myself while talking also right now. Like, like I'm not saying what I really want to say. But
Yeah, yeah, we
yeah, that's
understand
the
that.
only thing that has really changed in making film, in the filmmaking process in the last 5 years. The amount of strange censorship, that self censorship, which is there.
Yeah, I understand. One more question we have from the audience, which is you might actually find funny. How do you acquire funds for your films?
It's very
How does one acquire funds for?
Actually, the thing is, like, unfortunately, in India, there are no public funds. We rely on private funding for anything that we want to make. Like, we need to have a private producer who's essentially the financier of the film. Abroad, it doesn't work like that. So, my experience, I tell you from my experience, my films have always been funded from the West, kind of a thing. I have applied, done funding applications abroad, which I kind of didn't even know how to do because our film schools actually never taught us this very important stuff, you know. So there is, and I will talk about documentaries because that is something that I know. Is that there are several funds, not many, but there are some several funds abroad that, like the Sundance grant or the ITFA grant and things like that, that kind of help you in the different stages of your film, and through which you can also get other grants and find co-producers abroad to kind of fund your films. I did not know this while making the film, so I kind of put in my own money, but now I know, so I'll be like smarter next time. Also, you need to have an Indian producer who can do this for you so that you don't spend your energy kind of doing it. But like right now, the film that won at for Cannes, Shaunik's film, it's very heavily funded from the West. Like, it has got the Sundance grant. He has a producer from the UK, and it has a big. It's an Indian film, documentary film with a really big, fat budget. Like, which rarely happens. But if you do it right, which I think Shaunak did, again with his first film he didn't do because again that time he didn't know. With the second film, it kind of happened very well, and it's an amazing film, so it should have gotten everything. So yeah, I think you have to navigate the funds abroad for documentaries. There's nothing in India for documentaries otherwise.
Okay. So before we conclude, I just want to ask one personal question. As you said before that you like static shots and you like long takes and you're a really big fan of Michael Haneke. I also can see some similarities you between you and Chaitanya Tamhane, whose films like Court and Disciple are they have like very static shots and they're very long takes. And he is also you included him in your special thanks. So, did you collaborate in what is your relationship with him? If you can, please tell us about.
Actually, the thing is that when I was in the I had already finished editing my film. Like, I had my first cut or maybe 10th cut, I don't remember. I had actually gone to him for feedback. Like, we actually met at a film festival long time back, like in 2011 or something like this in Rotterdam only. Our films were playing there together, and I kind of knew him from then. But he has always been busy with his. It was nice of him to lend his time to me and like kind of watch the film, and he kind of liked it, and he suggested few edit changes to me, and he actually asked me to work with his editor on Court, Raghu, who actually is a consulting editor on my film also. So I kind of collaborated with Rikha, who was his editor on Court, to kind of look at the film for its structure, which was a great. He's an amazing editor. If ever people need, please contact him. He's amazing, really, really, really talented editor. So yeah, that was the connection essentially. Like in the filmmaking community, honestly, people help each other out. Like, especially in the independent industry, you have to ask for the help. You will get it. It was like that, and feedback is important, and you have to take it. And like I love Chaitanya's work. I really respect him as a filmmaker. So it was important for me to have his feedback to make my film better, sort of a thing. So yeah. In fact, Shaunak had also given, who the guy who had, he used to that he has helped me with my funding applications. Shaunak, like with me, when we were all kids.
Oh, you've known him that long.
Yeah,
Okay,
and there's another
okay.
filmmaker, Khushbu Rangta, who made an Insignificant Man. So
Oh
she
yeah, I've
also.
heard that.
So these are my friends who were around me who kind of helped me at that time. So other than Abhay, of course. So yeah.
Yes, thank you. Nitin, I think Nitin has also one question. Can you please name your favorite Michael Haneke film?
Piano teacher.
Okay, why do you like that film in particular?
I mean, it's very difficult, I think, for see, the thing is, like, I love films that are generally about women subjects. Like, I get drawn to it for whatever reason. So that is one of the reasons that I thought, what a way this man has shown women. He's really understood them, which so rarely happens. So that for me is a very um, big achievement, I thought, and I really connected with the film because of the music, because of the amazing performances, the way it is constructed, everything. Like, it was a roller coaster emotion. It left me destroyed by the end of it. So I of course, all his films do that, but for me, it was Piano Teacher for some reason.
You're on mute, Sarthak.
Yeah, good to know. Good to know your film. I'm also a really, really big fan of Piano Teacher. Thank you for telling that.
I think that gets us to the end of our session. Thank you, ma'am, for taking out the time and gracing us with your presence. It's been
Thank
a
you so
really
much.
insightful session.
I think today you guys have inspired me with your youngness and energy, and that's very nice. I always like meeting young people for this reason. Like, I've been troubling Divya, send me the questions, this, that, everything, because I was myself. I'm a confused person a little bit. So sorry if I troubled you, but thank you so
Not
much
at all.
for this.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming.
Awesome.
Thank,
Thank
thank
you.
you for coming, man.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We really liked your session.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye.
Thank
Take care, ma'am. Bye bye.